on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. Gentlemen, we are back in 2021. We made it through the fire that was 2020, and we're here to talk about the conclusion of our fantasy football season. But before we get into that, gentlemen, welcome to 2021. How are we doing today?
Pretty good, man.
Good day.
Already ready for 2021 fantasy football. Let's go.
Yeah, let's
Tell
do
me
it.
about
I got my
it.
sleepers.
Now it's reasonable to say we took a bit of a break, but we're going to be back on your regular schedule here, minus a few weeks as we get things set up for the upcoming season. But boy, 2020 did it do a number on us in terms of fantasy? We have any champions in the house? I say that, because
I know one of them.
Raise your hand if you're a champion in the house.
We all won at least one league.
Jacob won one as well.
But to be fair, Justin only plays in 2 leagues, so we had a better chance to win a championship.
Yeah,
We were in like 5 leagues.
Well, so Jacob, I'll start. So I played 5 leagues. I finished first place. I had 2 second place, 1 third place, and 1 6th place. Or 5th place, actually. I beat Johnny. Who cares, though? How about you? What did you do?
So in leagues that I play with people that I know and care about, I played in 6 leagues. So 1, I won a championship. 1, I got second place, a winner-take-all league, of course. So no money won, of course. It was bullshit. My team was the best all year.
Your team was the best.
My team outscored everybody by like 350 points.
You have Derrick Henry.
And I lost.
Sounds like my Rio team, dude.
Sounds like
and then I got knocked out of the playoff. I got 4th place in the other one, and then the other ones I didn't make the playoffs. So
gotcha. How about you, Gabe? What did you do?
I played in 6 leagues, which I will definitely not play in that many leagues next season because that is a stressor, man, of life itself. I made the playoffs in every single league, but I was ousted in the first round of the playoffs in all of those leagues but one, and that was Beer Drinkers, which I did win. So
nice.
And that's the one we all want to win.
And so Justin got first and third, I think, in the 2 leagues that he played. So
no, I got second and third. Gabe beat me in beers. Same position as Jacob. The best team I ever put together, I think. But Kamara strikes, and what can you do? Congrats to Gabe, man. Well played. That was a good roster as well.
I think everybody who had Kamara that 1 week. It was the second to last week, right?
No, it was the championship
week 16. That was it.
He went off for
that was
60 points. So,
but you know what though? My team wasn't that great. Like literally, it was Kamara.
Everybody
ended up
him
winning by
win.
6 or 8 points, Justin. So it wasn't like a blowout or anything.
No,
the league I won, I had Kamara, Jacob. It was your dynasty league, and I had Kamara, and I barely won. Honestly, I'm looking by 5 points.
You know what's funny about that? Those 3 leagues where we all won the championship, we all had Kamara in those leagues. Yeah. And I didn't win by much. So if I didn't have him, I probably would have lost.
Oh, I would have definitely lost.
Here's an interesting question. If you guys all had Kamara in those leagues, do you remember, was he your first pick? And if so, do you remember what pick you drafted him at? Because I drafted Kamara in the 9th with the 9th pick.
I believe it wasn't high. I had like the 6th pick or the 7th pick.
Yeah.
So he fell back a little bit.
Mine was Dynasty, but I actually remember how I got him. I traded Barkley for Kamara and like a bunch of other stuff last year, if you guys remember, to Demond. So,
Demond.
Yeah. But, dude, my opponent had Mike Evans, who went for 45. And so, there were some other big-time guys that stepped in that last week. But I'm sure Kamara is one of the – and if you guys remember, to start the season, there was all the talks of the holdout, and is he going to get traded?
And he was banged
up,
and
he had the back spasm pain. Yeah. So there's a reason why he slipped. Yeah, of course.
But he made those owners happy. I remember, Gabe, even you were trying to trade Kamara the first few weeks in Beer Drinkers.
Yeah, because I drafted Kamara, and then I immediately drafted Michael Thomas. And I'm like, I don't know if I want both of these guys on my team, so I had to get rid of one of them. Luckily, I found a suitor sooner or later for Michael Thomas. And dude, but honestly, if the season would have went on like 2 more weeks, Taylor would have been the best player out of that trade. He came out of nowhere.
I told everybody, I said that trade had no bearing. Taylor was better than Cook in the playoffs. I got Taylor and Thomas. It's unfortunate that I played Gio in that league because I would have played you, I think, in the second place. I think I still would have lost. But, I played Gio. He goes for 215. The next week, he busts against somebody, and I think maybe you, and goes for like 115. So sometimes you just get unlucky, and you can't do anything about it.
You did not outscore me that week, Joe, by the way. I outscored you that week.
The second week?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have played you.
Yeah, that's well. You would have beat one of somebody, not Gio or me, but you would have beat Gabe, I think, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Somebody else. It was Johnny.
Yeah, I wouldn't have played you because you and I were 5th and 6th.
That's true. Anyways. That's true. Yeah.
So it happens, dude. What can you do? It's fantasy football. I made triple my money from my buy-ins, so I can't complain.
Can't be mad at that. I basically broke even, so whatever.
Yeah. Doubled.
It is what it is, fellas. And as much as I'd like to continue on, we started this podcast. It was our first season doing it, and we had a ton of fun. And Damon's not here today, but I would argue he would say the same, or I would agree that he would say the same thing. And I would hope that all of you guys would say the same thing as well. It's been a good first season. But if you didn't notice, by the way, congrats to anybody out there, one of our 7 listeners. If you happen to win that glorious fantasy championship, congratulations to you as well. Hopefully we had some help in that, right? I think we did. Absolutely. You were listening to us, right?
With that, money more than not.
Right, exactly. So with that being said, if you have been listening, we made some book it downs is what we called them, where we placed some high profile bets on a prize that is yet to be determined, but I guess we'll hash it out on today's show, in which we would make bets on whether players' performances in a specific week or, in the beginning of the season, if we deemed certain teams good, certain players are going to do good, perform at, certain levels, whatever it may be. We made quite a few of them. Now, did we notch all of them down? We didn't. I only have a few here today, but I did tally them up, and I came up with some numbers for us, gentlemen, to kind of let the world know how we did and how we plan to improve going in to the next fantasy season. So if we want to take it all the way back, before the season even started, you ready for the first bucket down? Jacob, do you remember what the first bucket down was? Because it was between me and you, and then we had some other guys jump in.
Yeah, it was between you and I, but I don't.
It was our man.
Receivers.
Nah, we're gonna fly through them, but it was a running back, and that was Sony Michel, running back for the New England Patriots. And our bucket down, I
was on that.
Wait, no, that wasn't between you and me, Gabe.
That was everybody because it was 900 yards and 10 touchdowns.
It was between me and Demont, and then you guys both chose to go on Demont's side. So
your memory is coming back. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, then you should likely know that it was not the case. But
he barely even played.
He barely even played. There were some injury concerns, but we did chalk that up in the injury column. So if you guys want to keep tallies for yourself, I'm talking to you 3 gentlemen. I have the numbers in front of me, and I'll tell them to you at the end. But if you guys want to keep your own tallies to make sure I did my math right, then feel free to check me. But that was Joe, Damon, and Gabriel who got that one. Jacob, sorry.
To be fair for Jacob, Michelle actually played 9 games. He started 6. He had 450 yards. He was almost on pace for 900, Jacob. You weren't. If he played 16 games, you weren't that far off.
It doesn't feel like he did that.
No.
At all. So.
Well, he didn't score any touchdowns. He had 1 touchdown.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the bet was about yards, right? So that's crazy.
Yeah.
Not too. Yeah, exactly. Number 2, and I'll take the heat for this one. It was will our man Stephon Diggs finish better or at wide receiver 15?
Number 2.
I won't lie. I took the L on that one. I went
Who's
under.
been on that bet?
That was Joe, Damon, and Jacob. They all said that he would finish better or at wide receiver 15. I said he would not. So,
what did he end up? Wide receiver number 2 on the year, I believe, right?
He finished.
Depends on scoring, but yeah.
No, he finished.
I have him here as 3.
Yeah, he finished 0.3 behind Tyreek, so it's pretty much 2A, 2B, same thing.
Same thing. Number 3, Austin Hooper is going to finish as a top 10 wide receiver this year. That was between Jacob and I. Jacob said yes. I said no. I'll take that one.
He did miss a bunch of games. He had surgery and stuff.
He He did. Fair enough.
And
Number
didn't he
4.
come on at the end of the year? But go ahead. Yeah,
He did. I started him in the fantasy championship against Justin.
Yeah, he was better for sure.
That's only because the entire
the last
Cleveland
3
Browns
weeks, he
wide
was,
receiving corps was down. But yeah.
yeah.
Number 4. Are the Bills going to win the division? Jacob, Joe, and Gabe agreed that they would. Damon said no. Hey, guys, since he's not on the show today, just letting you know, that's a trend for Damon. If you're on Damon's side at any time.
Who did he think was going to win?
I think he was saying that it's Belichick's team. It's not Brady, and they're still going to take it. Yeah.
We're going to win.
Good luck.
All right. Number 5. Will the Raiders be 3-3 or better 6 games into this season? Jacob and Joe said, no way, Jose. Damon and Gabe said, of course, we believe in our Raiders. They're gonna be okay. And we were good about that. Let's see. Moving on along here. Will Tyreek Hill finish as a wide receiver 6 or higher this season? Do you remember, Jacob, where it started?
I'm guessing I said no. Because I was always down on Tyreek Hill, but not anymore.
Joe, Damon, and Gabe.
Not just because I rostered him in a keeper league.
No, that's exactly why, bro.
Well, look,
you got him in my league. Your opinion shifted instantly.
When you roster a player, you pay more attention to them, right? I never have Tyreek Hill, and I changed my mind this year.
I'm glad you're coming around.
He's a monster.
He's been changed, man. Changed for the better. He's a beast. Number 7. Don't worry, Justin. You come along shortly, and trust me, you put on quite the run. Number 7. Who will have the better fantasy year? Josh Jacobs or Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Jacob, Gabe, and Joe. Well, we all said that it was Jacobs, so good for us. Damon, I don't know.
Jacobs?
Yeah, you said Jacobs.
That's crazy because this was before the season started.
This was way before the season started. And, I mean, there were shades where we were like, oh, God, Helaire looks good, dude.
I think Damon and I were debating it, and then you guys, I think you were like, oh, it's tough, but I'll go with Jacobs.
Dude.
Just because we knew what Josh Jacobs' role was, so that makes sense.
You know, I love to go back and see year-to-year running backs overall, but this has to be the worst, most inconsistent year I've ever seen.
It definitely is.
Dude, when you look at it, you had 3 guys all kill it. Kamara, Henry, Cook.
Dude, a running back
and think about that.
You know who running back 4 is?
Aaron
I don't
Jones.
want to say it. No, I
David
don't want to say
Montgomery's number 5.
it. Not on my list. Oh,
I have a full PPR.
Hold on. Let's see. Number 4
shouldn't
is
even be in that conversation. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's my point.
James Robinson.
So I have Kamara, Henry, Cook. Well, this is a league where you get a 5-point bonus for hitting 125 yards. So that might mess things up. I guess depending on
but it's still a general understanding of it, though.
Yeah, I had Aaron Jones, then Montgomery, then Taylor, then Robinson, then Jacobs.
And think about the guys that went down this year too. CMC, Barkley, those were number 1 and number 2 picks. And then
I hope you wrote down that Montgomery
one
that we made at the end of the year.
You called that.
My God.
We'll see if we can add it to the tally. We're moving on though. Number 8, the better fantasy finish, 10-game minimum. Chris Carson or James Conner? Well, Chris Carson was the better of the two.
Did they play 10 games?
You were on the right side. Yes, they actually both played 10 games.
Wow.
I bet have been on the right side.
Yeah, Joseph, you were on the right side.
Yeah, okay.
And,
Jacob was texting me after that show. Bro, I'll bet you $10 Connor's going to be top 10. I believe in him. I didn't take you up on it because I said, dude, I don't know, but
you said you didn't want to root against him.
Yeah, I liked him. He's a good kid.
He had a good stretch where he was very consistent, and then he fell off.
Yeah,
he got injured and then fell off.
Week 2 through about week 8, he was startable, and then after that,
it was actually looking good during that time. I was like, oh hell yeah, I was right, and then it completely disappeared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It happens that way sometimes. Number 9. Let's move on to some quarterback talk. Deshaun Watson, top 10 quarterback on points per game basis, minimum 10 games. Jacob, Justin, welcome in. And Joe and Gabe all said, yes, of course he's going to finish as a top 10, which he did.
Damon said no?
I think I remember that.
Guys,
because he was saying without Hopkins.
For you at home, Damon had a baby this year. He's just
in his defense, we all shortchanged Watson, but not that bad.
Not
that bad. QB number 3 on the year. Bro, guys, Aaron Rodgers was QB1.
Yep.
And people had him at the experts, the Matthew Berries had him at 15. And I remember talking to Jacob saying there's no reason he's not top 10. That's crazy.
I mean, honestly, most of the fantasy analysts were putting him down.
As they always are.
As they always are, except for us, because we're batting 300 like baseball. That's good, right? It's good. Kyler Murray finished a wide receiver 3. I mean, wide receiver 3, quarterback 3. So we had quarterback 3 in our
we have bonuses. It throws it off.
First round fantasy podcasters league. We had both Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers. So we did.
I was going to say, didn't we have Aaron Rodgers in that league? Yeah.
Sure did, but we only started him maybe twice the entire season.
Well, Kyler was number 1 for a long time.
DeMont was right. DeMont was right. We picked Kyler Murray, I remember, in the 5th round, and DeMont was like, why? We could get Aaron Rodgers in the 9th. And DeMont was right.
But it was looking good, though, for a little while with Kyler. Like, he was on track to have the best quarterback season of all time at the beginning of the season, and then it kind of fell off.
It looks like, I'm looking it up without all the bonuses, Josh Allen actually finished QB1 in the standard way of scoring for quarterback.
Yes, I have it too. Josh Allen also finished as QB1. Aaron Rodgers 2nd, Kyler Murray 3rd, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson.
Even in my league, I had them.
And that's NFL. So, yeah. Well, looks good there. Moving on. And again, I said Justin just comes in and says hello and lays down the knowledge. Number 10, A.J. Brown or Stephon Diggs on a points per game basis. Well, actually, sorry, Justin, you got that one wrong.
That's an interesting one. I was about to say, I don't think A.J. Brown did that
Jacob,
good.
Damon, Gabe, and Joe. We all said Diggs was going to have the better fantasy finish. And Justin, you did go with A.J. Brown.
I got one wrong yet?
Do you have the differentiation, what we're each at?
I got you guys. I got you. We'll get there. Number 11.
No, I'm saying between Diggs and Brown, what did they where were they each game per game? I have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up. Let's see here. Number 11. This was kind of a funky one. Devin Singletary or Miles Sanders. Higher finish on a points per game basis, minimum 10 games. Jacob and Joe said Miles Sanders, and Damon and Gabe said Singletary, and we were wrong. So we'll take the L.
Dude, let's go. I haven't got one wrong yet.
Even though Miles Sanders had a disappointing
so Joe could just
listen, Jacob, he was disappointing with all the hype, man. And it's not fair to him that we all of a sudden assumed this guy was a top 10 guy. He was still solid. You know, he missed 4 games.
He missed a lot of games.
Still finished top 25. If he plays those 4 games, he's easily, he wasn't. The difference between top 10-ish and top 25 was 30 points. If he doesn't
fumble that touchdown at the goal line after the 90-yard run, that's a totally different fantasy finish. So, yeah. Let's see here. Number 12, will Aaron Rodgers finish as a top 10 QB for fantasy? Well, Joe, Damon, and Gabe all said yes. Justin and Jacob said hell no. And look where that got him.
I do not remember that.
I don't remember that either because I wrote him all year. That's interesting to me.
Moving on. Number 13, will Adam Thielen be a top 15 wide receiver? Justin, Gabe, and Damon all said no. You know who said yes? Joe. Joe's looking mighty fine so far. Very nice, sir. Number 14, in week 3, so we have to go way back. Will Diggs be over or under 100 yards? Now, yes, he had 2 touchdowns called back, and he finished under 50 yards that game. But, hey, that's the way it works sometimes. So, Joe and Gabe, we got that one. Damon and Jacob, sorry, you did not.
God damn, I haven't missed a single one. We're, 10 in? 15? Let's go.
We're going in. Yeah, it gets sadder for us. Not you, Joe. You're looking pretty good. Number 15. Better rest of season, Justin Jefferson or Brandon Ayuk?
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you took the L on that one, as well Damon. Gabe and Justin, we said Justin Jefferson, and the guy came out and showed up. But I'd like to think if, Ayuk had some consistent quarterback play throughout the season, he probably would have been well endowed, one of the top wide receivers to come in.
And Ayuk missed at least 2 games after that due to COVID-19.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, I mean, it's fair. We said for rest of season, so
it is what it is.
Wait, did we calculate rest of season from that point? What week was that? Because Ayuk
It does not matter. Jefferson is the best wide receiver rookie. There's no question. Don't worry about it.
It doesn't matter, though. That's not the
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it does have to be from that week on because that was after Jefferson's blow-up week.
Points per game basis, Jefferson did have more points per game. You can look it up. I didn't write it specifically down, but of course.
Was the bet points per season, though?
Yeah, it was just the best rest of season. And I looked at points per game basis because if you looked at them for the rest of the season, you would have just looked at their numbers overall. So I looked at them from like week 4 on. But yeah.
I'll have to go back and calculate that.
Better than what's the blemish on the record. Well, hey, here's a blemish on my record. I'll take the L for this one. Hardcore, better rest of the season, Mo Alley Cox or Jimmy G. I said Mo Alley Cox, and Damon, Joe, and Justin all said Jimmy Graham.
What a
he was Mr. Reliable. He had some touchdowns.
It was like 2 weeks. Mo Alley Cox had like 2 weeks where he put up like 15 and like 12. And Gabe we were like talking about tight ends that there was a few other tight ends that blew up. I remember the conversation, and Gabe goes, "Are you guys talking about Mo Alley Cox?" He was so excited. And we're like, "What? No, I think we were talking about, I can't remember who."
The Mo Alley Cox resurrection is coming, 2020-21. Be ready for it, all right?
Yeah.
Number 17, in week number 4, will Joe Mixon have over or under 80 yards in a TD? Well, he certainly had a great game that week. I said he did. And Joe, Justin, and Damon said he would not. But, he had a couple of streaks there of bad weeks. So it was reasonable to think that that would be the case. Number 18, Drake or Edmonds in week 6. Now, this was quite the teeter-totter back and forth debate here that we've had on the episodes quite a few times. But that particular week, it was Drake who won out and just demolished fantasy players. And that was Justin and Damon. Congratulations to that. Jacob and I were on the wrong end.
Was that the week he busted that long touchdown?
Yeah, at the end of the game.
That was a good week.
By 2 points.
That was a big week.
Hey, Gabe, I know for sure me, you, and Justin did a David Montgomery top 10 for rest of the season. I know for sure we did that one. So you got to calculate that in.
And I know I said no.
Yeah, and Justin said no. I said yes. But I bet that doesn't affect who the winner is of this whole thing. So
number 19, Ayuk over or under 13 fantasy points in week 6. Damon and Jacob said he'd be over. Well, Justin and Gabe said he'd be under, which he was. So good job, Justin and myself. Number 20, in week 11, will A.J. Brown have 15 plus fantasy points? Joe and I said he would not. Justin said he would, and A.J. Brown went out and caught like a 60-yard bomb in the first minute of the game. So it was
How
off
did
for
we
us.
come up with these? Like these came up so randomly. Like
20.
We just have our passionate players, and we like to stand true to them.
A lot of the same players too. Like A.J. Brown's come up a lot.
21 in week 12. Does Devin Booker exceed 14 plus fantasy points? Remember, he was going up against the New York Jets. And
wait, who?
Devin Booker.
Devontae.
Or Devontae Booker.
I was
sorry.
like, did we do a fantasy basketball one on the football podcast?
Devontae. It was the week that Jacobs was out and he was going to get the lion's share. Yeah.
Justin and Jacob said he was going to go out and ball out, which he did the next week. But he did not.
I remember that. He shit the bed that week.
I said he was not going to, and he did not. Number 22, in week 12, do Boyd and Higgins reach 14 plus fantasy points? This was a very hot topic. I said no. And Boyd said, let me catch this touchdown. Then let me get in a fist fight. Then let me get ejected, but still get Jacob and Justin their wins. So that's what they did for you. So good job. And 23. Will McKissick, Justin's main man, exceed 12 plus fantasy points in week 12? Justin was the only one that said yes. Jacob and I said no, and that is where the cookie crumbled. Now, if you're looking at overall statistics, there were more that we had before week 2. There were some that we skipped throughout the year. Going into next season, we'll be sure to document all of them.
Yeah, we got to
keep a very precise tally of them as we move along throughout the season. But those are the ones I have on record, and they look pretty good. Let's see here. Oh, that was Dark Horses and Fool's Gold. Here we go. So, wait, where is it? I have it somewhere.
I'm counting the David Montgomery one, by the way.
So I'll give you that. I agree. We all know who won.
But I'm going to win either way.
You didn't win.
So I got 14 out of 23 of my picks correct, which gave me a 61%. Jacob, you were 8 for 19, which is 42%. Joe, you were 13 for 17, which was 76%. Damon was 8 for 18, 44. And Justin, you were 8 for 11, which was 73%. So we'd have to skew the numbers a little bit, make some room, but it looks like Joseph, you are the man when it comes to making precise predictions about what is happening in all fantasy.
Listen. Let me get my minute spotlight. Let me get my minute spotlight. So, I think when we first discussed this, the thing was either we all chip in on a bottle for the person or take him out to dinner or something like that. I understand COVID's going on. Times are tight. You guys are good. I'll let you slide. Next year, I want to document everything. We'll get a spreadsheet going. We'll make sure that we tally everything. I want Jacob to have his fair share as well. And I just want to say thank you. And I'm honored to be here. And we'll be back next year.
Yeah.
Good job.
Hey, but at the very least, you have the pride that you won this year. We're still counting your win. So
we're still counting your win.
Season, Joe won.
Well, technically, I got less wrong than him. So, I mean, just like me, if I played more. No,
exactly. So even when
like
we're
you
not
on the second half of the season, but didn't play enough games, Justin. So
exactly.
Kind of like
so even when we're not on next season, if only some of us are on every occasional episode, we are all going to contribute our consensus picks week in and week out to make sure we're on top of it and giving you our most honest.
We'll have Justin or somebody write them down every single time they come up.
It'll be booked.
That way, Gabe, you're not distracted from hosting and stuff.
The book it down will be booked down.
Hey, but guess what, fellas? I also took the courtesy from I believe it was week 7 on. We got some of our dark horses and fool's gold. Now, these were tough, guys. We went out on a limb here and we did something that I don't think a lot of other content creators do out there, which is what we had to dig deep and we had to find the diamond in the roughs. And, this is where I like to think of it as baseball, right? We're not going to be hitting 1,000%, but we're going to be hitting a nice 300, 350. And I think those are good numbers. So when we look at our dark horses and our fool's gold combined, I was 4. Oh, wait, no, that's the other one. I was 6 out of 12, which was 50%. Jacob was 7 out of 12, which was 58%. Joe, you were 3 out of 7, which was 43%. Damon was 0 for 6. Rest in peace. Pour one out. And Justin was also 6 for 12 at 50%. So, again, we will be sure. This is one of the things that I think no one does. Even the Matthew Berry. Hey, shout out to Matthew Berry if you're listening. Of course. Hello. How you doing? Welcome on in. But, you look at these people, man, and they say one thing, and 3 weeks later, they act like they've never said it before in their lives because they never bring it up again. We think it's hindsight 2020 to look back, critique ourselves, let us know how we did. And it's a great way to reflect, kind of change our mindsets going forward into 2021. Maybe not make some outlandish ones like Mo Alley Cox, but, it's fun to look back and it's good to learn from. So we look forward to doing this every year with you guys to kind of, give you a little insight to how we think. All right. We're going to transition now. Again, congratulations. Oh, what is that, Joe?
Nice.
My girl got this for me for Christmas. Show
that's cool.
The pod world.
Hey, you know what that just reminded me of?
Pink.
So by now, if you don't know, I'm a 3rd grade teacher, and I'm on Zoom call all the time. You know what that just reminded me of? Just a random ass 3rd grader being like, "What's that, Joe?" It's my new painting I made of my mom. She's a superhero. Oh, thanks, bud. We got to get back to literature and language arts. Anyway, the perfect way to transition. Guys, we don't got too much more to talk about, but I did want to talk about, some of the fantasy players who had major impacts on our season. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be the MVP caliber type of player. For instance, I'll go first, and I told you guys this before the show. Mine was Myles Gaskin. he was a guy that was completely off of everyone's radar. You had people like Jordan Howard and Matt Breida come in to Miami's offense in the offseason, unequivocally challenged as 1 and 2 backs. And they were not even contributing from the start. It was Myles Gaskin show from day one. And even when he missed a few games, right, towards the later half of the season, people wrote him off, and he came back and he dropped 31 in your fantasy championship. So someone like that, I don't know what the fate of Myles Gaskin will be in 2021, but in 2020, he was a sight for sore eyes, and he was desperately needed on my fantasy team because he was such a consistent player, and I enjoyed having him. So that is my most improved MVP, whatever, someone I just had the hots for in 2020. Jacob, do you have a player that you feel likewise about?
So I think when you're talking about fantasy MVP, it could be interpreted in different ways. Like some people say, like Christian McCaffrey was the MVP of fantasy last year because he was the overall best player in fantasy, or they say somebody who gave you the most value for where they were drafted. And for me, I think there's one guy who has to be considered fantasy MVP, and I already spoiled it. It's Alvin Kamara. It has to be Alvin Kamara because look at what we just talked about at the beginning of the show. We talked about the 3 championships that we won. All 3 of us had Alvin Kamara. The thing is, though, because he was drafted in the second half of the first round, which was too low, and he performed much better than some of the guys we were taking at the beginning of the first round. And then also on top of that huge week in the fantasy championship week, him winning championships for everybody cemented him as the 2020 fantasy MVP. So I got to go with Kamara on that.
Not a bad one at all, man. 932 yards, 16 touchdowns, 83 receptions, 750 yards receiving, and 5 touchdowns through the air. That is an MVP for anybody who had him. So great pick, Jacob. Justin, what about you, my man?
I like Jacob's explanation, and I had to sway towards the draft value and what you got for him. And due to that, my boy, and it hurts as a Viking fan, but I got to give it up, Stephon Diggs.
That was my backup.
Yeah.
That was my backup.
The reason I love him is because similar to Allen Robinson last year, they fall, past the 5th, 6th round. If you snag them, you all of a sudden got propelled up, and as if you stole a second rounder, which is huge. So if you had him, you weren't disappointed at all. He's my MVP this year, no doubt.
That's a great one. That's a perfect example of an MVP, fantasy MVP.
Yeah, pure definition of just exceeding the draft capital of what you got him for. So not a bad pick at all. Joe, we saved the best for last around here. What do you got for us?
So, oh man, I was really trying to go back and find it.
Did you hear all of ours?
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
did. So I already have mine in what I had been thinking, so you guys didn't conflict with me. But mine, and I was trying to go back. We did that spreadsheet. I wish we could go back and see it because I think you guys were on the same. I know at least Jacob was similar to what I was at. But Calvin Ridley, right? I went back and looked, and a lot of the experts had him 20, 30, 40, even they weren't that high on him. And I remember coming in saying, this guy's top 10 this year, and he's probably going to take Julio's spot by next year at the very latest. And I remember we had that conversation, all of us. I mean, this guy was money. There wasn't really a time in the season where he dipped, right? Like you had guys like Metcalf who blew up all, part of the season and then had bad weeks towards the end where he wasn't really a winner. Ridley was 26. Oh, you got it. Awesome. Ridley was 26, 37, 22 to close out the season. He started the season as one of the best guys to start as well. So, I think when I look back, he was like a 5th rounder, 4th rounder, 6th rounder in most of our leagues. I had him in 2 or 3 leagues, and that guy was pure money, dude. I'm keeping him definitely in at least 1 league, and I'm trying to get him in our Dynasty League too. So that was my MVP, I think, for all season.
Were you talking about our ranking spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where did he finish? I mean, in our league.
As far as finishes, he finished. I just had.
Did he finish top 10?
I think he finished right outside.
Yeah, so Joe, I'm looking. You had him.
Top five.
I had him at 15.
You had him at 15, yeah. But like
that was higher than everybody else.
People had him lower.
I had him at 11.
Oh, you did? Gabe did. Good call, Gabe. Good call.
Yeah, I had him at 21. So
yeah.
It's all right. At least I didn't have digs on there.
Hey, that's what it was. It was our hot take. Remember, Jacob? We were talking about how hot takes.
Oh, yeah.
Put them there, and my hot take was
exactly,
that top 5. And
yeah. I mean, you've been high on him. I think you were higher than your ranking was on him. In general.
Yeah, I'm just impressed by the player. I mean, overall, he's ready. In my opinion, when you're talking about next year guys that are ready to take that leap to fantasy stardom, where they are can't miss guys. You're looking at guys like Metcalf. You're looking at guys like Ridley. You might be looking at guys like Justin Jefferson to take even another leap, although as a rookie, finishing as wide receiver 6 or 7 or wherever he finished, that's impressive as hell.
So I heard some other analysts talking about this. Let's say Atlanta runs it back again. They keep Matt Ryan. They keep Julio. They keep Ridley. Does Ridley get drafted before Julio Jones next season?
100% for me.
I agree. And the thing is, for me, it's because Julio's going to miss games, honestly. And that's what it comes down to for me.
No disrespect to Julio. He's still Julio, but yeah, you can't do it anymore.
I mean, he finished. You guys, I know that he missed a lot of games. What did he end up missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. As far as the fantasy season's concerned, 4, 5, 6 games. And I think he went out in at least one other one, maybe 2. So, he played. And listen, but he was wide receiver 48, I'm showing, or 46. And a lot of people drafted him in the second round. So he was one of those guys we talk about. If you got Diggs in the 7th, that changes your whole outlook. If you got James Robinson off the waivers, that changes your whole team's outlook. If you drafted Julio Jones in the second round, you're in uphill battle the entire year. Because he's not a top 2 round pick. Same thing as people that drafted Barkley and CMC. The availability is the best ability, and if they're not playing half the season, that's killing you.
Yeah, for sure.
Most definitely. Well, for every great success story that we have here on the show, we also have a major disappointment. And I hate to talk it like this. I hate to say it because you know what? I couldn't do the things that these people do on the field, but I could critique them all I want. And my biggest disappointment of the year was probably DJ Moore, wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. He did finish at wide receiver 24 on the year, but for how highly I had anticipated him to do with Teddy Bridgewater and Robbie Anderson and all in company, it just was not the case. He had some weeks where he flared and you thought, man, this is what we need to see week in and week out, but he was wildly inconsistent and eventually just completely fell off into your bench most weeks because you thought, and then he became one of those players that you hate to have on your team, a guy that you always sit, and then when you sit him, he goes off, and when you put him in your lineup, he does nothing for you. And those guys like that, they're the headache, man, and I hate to say it, but major disappointment for me and my family. I think I picked him up in almost all 6 of my leagues, maybe all of them except for 1, and by the end of the season, I had him in 2. I couldn't do it anymore. It was stressing me out. So there was my disappointment of 2020. Justin, I'll go back counterclockwise this time. What was your disappointment here?
This is so hard. I want to say Zeke. I want to say Drake. I want to say Connor, but I have to say Mixon. Not only was he underperforming when he played, he got drafted with really high hopes, and he just went on an injury streak, and he's coming back next week. You held him. You could have even squeezed value those first couple of weeks because we all thought he's coming back. But when you just sit out the rest of the year, whether him or a coach's decision, go on the IR, it's just a complete bust all around. And when you started him, you weren't happy. He may have done well a couple of games, but not enough to justify at all where he got drafted. And because of that, he's going to fall, and hopefully he bounces back and ends up being a sleeper for some people. But this year, got to put him in that disappointment list.
Yeah, Boyd, Higgins, Mixon, Burrow coming back next year. The Bengals, watch out, man. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. But Justin, you brought up a good point because I was a Mixon owner, and you thought to yourself, okay, he's injured this week. All right. Okay, he's injured next week. But the coach, Zach Taylor, never came out and said, oh, he's going to miss the rest of the season. It was always just the kind of, he might be ready. He might be ready. And then this fool ended up missing like 8 games. So you're just kind of left there like after 5 weeks out, you're like, okay, I can't trade him anymore. So I completely sympathize with you there. Joe, biggest disappointment of 2020.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's easy to say CMC, right? I mean, everyone picked him first or second pick, and he got injured all year. But I hate to do that. It's a cop-out. He was injured. It's not his fault. Things happen, right? So my biggest disappointment is tough. It's between 2 running backs, but I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And the reason is because right before the season, there was all this talk. He's got, feed the man. Damian Williams decides to sit out for the season, and then the hype intensifies even more. And going into the drafts, and our drafts were a week or 2 weeks before the season, he's hyped as a top 5 pick. I mean, we had drafts where I think he was going in front of guys like Derrick Henry, obviously in front of guys like Alvin Kamara, in front of guys like Cook. I was all in on him too. I was taking him in the top 5, top 6 when I had the chance. And then look, it's not his fault, but he comes out and he kills it week 1. I don't know if you guys remember. He had 25 rushing attempts, 138 yards. He completely dogged Houston in what was hyped up as, Mahomes versus Watson. And he looks like, oh my God, this is what I just drafted. Like, yes, all season. Yes, let's go, baby. And then he kind of proceeds to just become average, right? The rest of the season, where he had maybe 2 other games where he broke 20, but other than that, it was a lot of 11s, 12s, 9s, 13s, 14s, And listen, that's fine, but as a first-round pick, you want Derrick Henry. You want a guy who's consistently can put up 40, like legitimately, who can get 250 yards. So Clyde, for me, and I'm not sure it was fair to him as a rookie in a pass-heavy offense, was the disappointment. And I think it's actually going to work out better for us, some of the ones of us that have him, maybe in a keeper league or whatever going into next year, is because people are going to sleep on him a little bit too, I think, after this year. And I'm not ready to call quits on him. They can't throw it like that forever. I think this was kind of Mahomes being upset still about getting passed by Lamar Jackson in the rankings and everything. So I think next year we'll see a little bit more from Clyde. So I'm not too worried, but it was a little bit of a disappointing season.
You said a lot, and they were pretty much all nails on the head.
That's a great choice, man, because he killed me in our beers drinkers league. Like I had to struggle to make the playoffs all year because he was my number 1 pick. So I felt it.
Oh, we'll end it with you, Jacob. What do you got?
Well, I gotta go with Ezekiel Elliott, and he played all year. He missed 1 game where we saw Tony Pollard go insane in that game. But the thing to me is, what happens? Look, does Christian McCaffrey? Does it matter who his quarterback is? Does it matter the state of the offense, how the offense is playing? No.
Okay. Kyle Allen was his quarterback last year.
Christian McCaffrey is going to go off no matter what. You could say the same about most of these guys. I know Alvin Kamara struggled without Drew Brees in there, but I still trust in Kamara regardless. He started to come on a little bit with Taysom Hill before they went back to Drew Brees. Barkley's going to ball out no matter what. Cook is going to ball. I think Cook, even if Kirk Cousins wasn't there, whatever, he's going to ball out. I learned, and I know it has to do with the offensive line. They were missing guys all year long, in and out. But if you can't get it done, like same for Derrick Henry, he doesn't matter what's going on with this situation. If you can't get it done, especially when your Dak is out, you need Zeke to step it up and help carry the team. He showed me that he needs a system and he needs Dak there or a great quarterback there in order for him to work. Because look, Zeke is he gets a lot of touchdowns. He runs a lot when they're in when the game's close or when they're ahead. So he needed Dak to be this top 5 guy, and he was a top 5 guy before Dak went out. And to me, you guys know how much I love Zeke. He's been my favorite running back for the past 3-4 seasons. And I no longer hold him in the same tier as these guys anymore. Even though I still think he's going to have a bounce back with Dak back, I know, okay, if something happens, if the offensive line is struggling, if Dak gets hurt again, I hope he does not, then I can't count on Zeke to perform no matter what. So I want those guys who are going to perform no matter what, like CMC, like Kamara, like Henry. So to me, Ezekiel Elliott's the biggest disappointment of the year.
Oh, gentlemen.
You know, Jacob, the scariest thing about the whole Zeke situation is that I watched a lot of Cowboys games towards the end of the year, and Tony Pollard looked much better.
Amazing.
He looks so much better than Zeke out there, and it's not like you're switching a quarterback or doing this, and I get it. There's a little bit more emphasis on stopping Zeke than Tony Pollard, but Tony Pollard looked like a guy who was explosive, and why are you going to pay Zeke $15 plus, $17 plus million, whatever the hell he's making, when you've got Tony Pollard, and you know that when Dak's healthy, you know that when the offensive line is healthy, you can make it work with whoever you need. So I'm not going to be surprised if some team comes out and trades for Zeke.
I thought about that, and the thing is, though, Zeke's extension hasn't even started yet.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't even started, and they can't. I believe the Niners can cut Jimmy Garoppolo if they wanted to, right, and get out of the contract without any repercussions. They can't do that with Zeke. It would be dead cap on their thing if they cut him. So I think they're kind of stuck. And if anything, it's going to be more of a committee than we've ever seen with Zeke.
It could be, you know. I heard something about how as long as he's not on the roster next year, so if they trade him this summer, then they don't get hit in 2022. But if he's on the roster in 21, they get hit for 22. And after 22, then they have an out. So there's talks
he has guaranteed money on that contract, so somebody has to pay him.
It's a crazy contract, man. How do you there's guaranteed money all the way through 2024 when the guy's about to be 30. You know, and it's a contract that lasts through his age 31 season that pays him $16.5 million. It's too much for a running back, dude. And it kind of goes to show that when these teams hold out on signing a guy for a $90 million contract at running back, there's a reason why, guys. You know, it happens a lot more where it ends up like a Zeke situation where you're unhappy than like a Derrick Henry or Cook where you're happy with the contract. So we'll see.
Well, really quick, before we bid farewell to 2020, Justin, I know you were nodding your head for a couple of minutes there, Justin. Do you have anything to say in rebuttal? Because you seem to have disagreed.
No, he agrees full-heartedly.
No, I don't. I mean, I was a Zeke drafter everywhere I could get him. You know, I never got my hands on him. I love to have him, but even when he was with Dak, it was kind of like inflated games because he just got a lot of garbage receptions, which I'm happy to get in fantasy, but I'm really iffy. But the part I disagreed with that is the chance that they can get rid of him. I think if we can see it, GMs see it, and look at what just happened with like a David Johnson trade. Who wants to be on that side of a same typical deal? Like if you get rid of him, you just sadly have to cut him or take a 7th rounder, but you're not going to get any value back. So I think they just saw what they had with Dak and ride it out and hope it works. But I do agree Pollard is a future back in this league that people would want, but I can't see anyone trading value for Zeke just based off what we saw this year.
Well, listen, it's probably not going to – my guess is it's not a value trade. It may even be a trade where that team gets some value with Zeke, where Dallas has to attach a 3rd rounder and Zeke and take back a David Johnson and somebody who may not be a desirable player.
Somebody like freaking the Jets or Jacksonville who have so much cap space, and if they're like, look, we want to compete right away, they might do it because the Jets would do some stuff like that.
I think it's more so not even compete right now as sell your fan base.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's why they signed Le'Veon Bell.
Exactly. When you're 1-15, you need something to bring in the hype.
Listen, right? I'm not saying Zeke is done. because that offensive line was destroyed, and by the time it came back, that team was in shambles regardless. I think we're going to have a nice fall like Kamara had, and you're going to win some games because you got Zeke cheap. But, it's one of the big stories to take next year, that's for sure.
Unless Zeke has a lot of hype going into next season, he's going to go in the second round highest.
No, I think he's still a first rounder, man. I still think so. But listen, I'm going to say this. Present this situation. Atlanta Falcons, we just talked about them quite a bit. Let's say Julio retires this year. Injuries adding up. Opens up some cap space. Todd Gurley got paid, I think, $12 million a year with the out for this year. Let's say that comes off the books. And let's say Atlanta's looking at Matt Ryan, Ridley, and they want to bring in a guy like Zeke. You don't take him in the first round in Atlanta?
In that situation,
Dallas.
I mean, yeah.
It's not the current situation, though.
Even in Dallas, I'm taking him in the first round, though, guys.
I agree. Lower, though. Like, I'm talking 7, 8, 9, 10.
I agree, yeah.
So much fun stuff to talk about, boys. And yet we have so many months to talk about it as we await the 2021 fantasy football season. We want to give a big thank you to everybody who has contributed to our success thus far, whether it be minimal, because it kind of is. We look on bringing you a better, more improved show in 2021. And we're not out of the woods yet. We have our first round hoops podcast as well. If you're interested in basketball, we'd love to get over there and talk some basketball with you any and all time of the day. Hit us up on Instagram at First Round Fantasy, Facebook at First Round Fantasy, or if you ever have a question for us at firstroundfantasy@gmail.com. Believe it or not, we've had some people buy the merch. Justin, show it up, baby. The First Round Fantasy merch. You can get that at T Public.
I got it. It's pretty nice, too.
I got one, too. Yeah,
that's next.
So cozy. I'm actually just speaking because I don't have one, but I can only imagine how comfortable they feel. But with that being said, we are not gone. We will be back. We're going to take a brief break, transition into basketball for a little while, but we will have first round fantasy football content coming at you your way sooner than you think. So be on the lookout for that. With that being said, we close out 2020 and we say hello and look forward to 2021 fantasy football season. Any last words, gentlemen, as we say goodbye?
No, that's it. Thank you, everybody. And like he said, we are going to be doing some off-season stuff, but more like once or twice a month. So
don't forget your Book It Down champion, fellas.
Be on the lookout for it. Also, be on the lookout for the First Round Hoops podcast. We thank you so much. Have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon. Peace.